Hey, guess what? We have another stormy evening on tap for a lot of Florida. Not everybody going to see the storms, but again, they will be numerous again on your Thursday evening, September 28th. The rain over the past several days partially responsible for flooding returning in the St. John, specifically at Astor. We're going to break that down. There's also an astronomical component and a wind component to that. It's also having some coastal issues from Jacksonville all the way down through Central Florida. Again, we're going to break all that down, and we're going to have the forecast for your Friday from North Florida to Central Florida into South Florida. Widely different depending upon where you are. I'll show you that coming up. And then we'll go on to the tropics. We'll end the video with an update on Phillipe and now newly formed Rina right on the tail of Phillipe. Before we get into the video, if you want to stay updated on all things Florida weather, you have to hit subscribe. Please do that if you happen to find this content helpful. Give it a thumbs up. It helps us out a lot. All right, so here is a map of the advisories that you see there. I want to start with the flood warning. We're going to get into some of the lake or some of the river numbers coming up in just 1 second. We're going to be in minor flood stage here, really for the foreseeable future. That's why we do have a flood warning for the foreseeable future. Again, for Lake and Volusia County, this really specific for Astor. Let me take off the mark here so you can kind of see where that is. Again, right along the St. Johns River, bordering Volusia and Lake County. Then you see this kind of lime green or kind of puke green color here from parts of Putnam County into Flagler County, St. John's. This is going to be a coastal flood advisory. We have a stiff northeast wind right into the coast. That's one of the reasons why the St. John's is also coming up a little bit. It's forcing that south to north flowing river back down a little bit. So the extra rain, that push, and then the astronomical high tides also coming on there. We have a high surf advisory into, I'm getting a lot of, let me clear some of these off here. We have a high surf advisory, again, right along the coast of Jacksonville, and then also right up to the Georgia-Florida border as well. That's going to continue to 8 o'clock Friday. That is the small craft advisory in Peach. Let me query this purple right there, and that's going to be your coastal flood warning. So we have the advisories. Coastal flooding is going to be more pronounced where we have the warning area. So again, just to Atlantic Beach, Fernandina Beach, and then Jacksonville, and then Yulee. So again, just keep that in mind that we're going to have that because of the northeast wind into the coast, and then the higher than normal astronomical tides brought on by the moon. So again, just keep that in mind. Again, not the best idea to take the boat out either, especially where you have that small craft advisory in that peach color. Here's the latest on the St. John's as of this recording on September 28th at 3:30. Again, we're going to see the river. It's in flood stage. It's in minor flood stage at 2.3 feet, just above that. It's expected by Sunday to go up a little bit higher, 2.5 feet. It's never a good time for flooding. But we jump back into flood stage on the St. John's on the year anniversary of Hurricane Ian. It kind of just salt in the wounds, of course. If you're not living along the St. John's, you may remember Ian came through. It brought record flooding to the St. John's. People are still hurting that were impacted by that. So we're still thinking about those people that were flooded out along the St. John's courtesy of Hurricane Ian, unfortunately. I want to be clear. This flooding is going to be nothing like that. That number got up to 4.7 feet at Astor. Again, we are going to be way below that. Ian flooding was historic. That's the flood of record now along the entirety of the St. John's, including Astor. Again, just keep that in mind. Again, we're still thinking of everybody that was impacted by Ian 1 year later, from Southwest Florida to Central Florida and then through the Carolinas. Our wet pattern continues. Thankfully, nothing tropically threatening Florida, but we do have an extremely wet, unsettled pattern continuing. We have a dip in the jet stream right here. We have a big area of high pressure right here. The two of those are just pumping in tropical moisture. Now, I had a lot of comments the last couple of days about, hey, we've been dry in the Panhandle. We've talked about that. Notice this kind of brown or rust color here. That's the drier air on the backside of that trough, that dip in the jet stream, injecting some drier air down. Most of the moisture has been focused like this towards the peninsula. And even then, I know not everybody, especially in the Gulf Coast, has seen. I know Apollo Beach has been one that could use some rain that hasn't gotten it, at least a lot of it. It's kind of hit or miss, but inland and East Coast have been the highest, the most prolific rainfall amounts over the last couple of days. Storm chances are going to continue, and they're going to stay elevated through the weekend because this kind of setup, this setup that we have here that I just showed you, is going to stick around from Thursday into Friday, and then again on Saturday, you see some of the scattered storms. Note, again, I mentioned earlier in the video that the weather is going to be vastly different depending upon location. Look at us up here, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, for us, Port St. Joe, Apalachicola, Panama City. we're pretty much dry Thursday night into Friday. Rain chances aren't completely zero. I'll show you that in the pinpoint forecast coming up. But look at that. There's 5 o'clock in the morning on Friday. Still dry north of that line. We have a few scattered downpours around Daytona Beach and Orlando. And then you see it here, a lot of this junk out towards the Bahamas. We have more stuff getting ready to move in as we move through the course of your Friday afternoon. And again, staying unsettled through the weekend. Here is your pinpoint forecast for North Florida, and this is what I'm talking about. Apalachicola, just a stray shower to sneak on shore. Goose egg for us in Bonifay, Tallahassee, Pensacola, Panama City. And then look at the rain chances spike from Cedar Key to Gainesville, St. Augustine. Rain chances go north of 40%, north of right around Gainesville and points north. Orlando, 70% shot for storms on your Friday, 70% chance at the Cape. Inverness, 70% chance. Lakeland, 70%. Ocala and Daytona Beach, elevated rain chances for us. In South Florida, through Marathon, 40% chance. A little bit lower in Key West. Nonetheless, we're going to see those elevated rain chances through Miami up to Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, and into Fort Pierce. So active weather continues. These rocking storms continue right on through your afternoon and into the evening. If you guys have a rain gauge, let me know how much rain you picked up. I know a lot of people have the backyard rain gauges. I'd be interested to see what you guys picked up. Some of the numbers have been very impressive and as expected. All right, here's Tropical Storm Rina. It was named today, officially became a tropical storm with the 11 o'clock advisory early this morning. Here is Rina. Franklin's right next door. Look at that. Not Franklin. Phillipe. These storms are starting to run together in my head. That is Phillipe right here. This is Rina. The two are going to kind of play with each other, and we might have something rare happen called the Fujiwara effect. So storms really don't collide per se. One typically absorbs the other. At least that's one of the outcomes of the Fujiwara. The other could just be flung in a different direction. So when we have storms in close proximity, and I'll show you what it looks like on the model coming up here in just a second, we always have to be mindful of that if one gets too close, it could be flung way, way in a different direction than what is anticipated. That's kind of what's happening with this Phillipe forecast. Remember yesterday, the cone was like out here. Now it dips down and goes up. That is because it's being influenced by Rina behind it. I want to show you these computer models because this is crazy. This is maybe the most spread in the computer forecast that I have ever seen. There's not any consensus. Any. Look at this. We go up. The Canadian goes into the Caribbean. UK gets close. TVCon, again, the popular one of the Hurricane Center, that consensus model goes up, does a weird thing, and then goes out. Hurricane Wharf is going back in the other direction. It's crazy. Latest on Rina. And Rina is no doubt impacting that. The uncertainty in the short term is way, way higher than what it typically is because Rina is so close to Phillipe. So there you go. Tropical storm Rina expected to stay weak. So neither one of these appear anyway to get too terribly strong. But we have to watch, and I'll show you in the European model forecast, if one gets flung out rather than absorbed, it would have the chance to kind of regenerate. It's all weird. Here are the latest models on Rina, a little more consensus, but still, as we get to that 4 or 5 day period, we have some coming this way, we have some coming that way, and some going straight. And that's all because there is absolutely no way to know what these storms are thinking in terms of, okay, what one's going to be the dominant storm, if Rina absorbs Phillipe, or if Phillipe is going to absorb Rina, or if one kind of slingshots one in this direction. Let me just show you how crazy this is. So here we go. That is that red circle there, that very broad circle. That is Phillipe. Here is Rina. This is the Fujiwara. So you already see what's happening here. Rina is forcing Phillipe down, and then Phillipe is forcing Rina up. You see that pinwheel. And now we have a merger going on. So there was Phillipe. Here is Rina. And then according to the European model, it has Rina being the dominant one and then going out. It's going to be fascinating to watch over the next couple of days. And this is October 5th, so we're talking about a week out. We'd still be talking about some of the uncertainty here. It's going to be interesting to watch. Let's hope they do their little Fujiwara dance right on out into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Behind that, everything looking good right now to close out September. We do not look like we're having any kind of threats. Again, I mentioned about something getting flung in this direction. If something were, and the way that they played each other with each other wasn't absorption, and it's more like kind of kick out into another direction. We'd have to watch if it got out here by itself, if one of the two was forced in that direction for kind of something to regenerate. Some models are suggesting that. It's all complex, and we are going to watch because nobody knows what is going on that kind of mesoscale level and that small scale level, how those two storms are interacting right now. And you saw the models. They are everywhere. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have found this content helpful, if you enjoy the Florida forecast, please hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate that. If you found this content helpful, again, hit that thumbs up. It does help us out a lot, and we will catch you next time.